potentially good news for the Oklahoma Sooners at wide receiver coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Jay, Brent Venables spoke with media after the Crimson Combine and did confirm that Javonnie Gibson was injured, something that Parker Thune and George Stoya had reported last week. Wasn't a cast, but Brent Venables also mentioned that if everything goes according to plan, fingers crossed here, that he could be back by week 1.
I had my fingers, my toes, my legs,
my eyes,
all eyes crossed, everything. If you name it, I got it. Man, hey, that would be huge for us if Javonnie is able to come back. And basically what Brent Venables said in a nutshell, the injury was similar to Kendall Dolby's. Someone rolled up on the back of his leg and he had surgery earlier this week, but the thing that was good about it is that it wasn't as severe as Kendall's, in which we know with KD, he had, ligaments and all kinds of stuff going on with the lower part of that ankle, and it was a snap. He was out, and they said that he was ready last month, but they haven't had him go full. They're gradually, because they want him back for the season, because he is a key component to this defense. So you want to make sure that he's as healthy as possible coming the season. Well, going back a month or so, that's about 6 months from injury, because he's injured in September. That's massive. If he was able to come back in 6 months and Javonnie Gibson is less severe based upon that, I can totally see the August, because in August, that's 4 months from now. That is the perfect time frame for him to show up game 1, which is at the end of August. So that's 4 months and like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You get that, John, we're back in business, baby.
Yeah. Maybe I'm living with a little bit of PTSD from the 2024 year where it was just another week. We're close. We're day to day with all these wide receivers, and none of it ever really came to fruition. So I'm not going to hold my breath. I hope Javonnie Gibson is back for week 1. That'd be awesome. I just want him healthy. I want him 100% for as much of the 2025 season as I can have him for. I don't need him to come out for week 1 if he's 75%. Don't push the timeline just to get out there. Get healthy, get right, be 100%, then come on back, because you'll be a weapon.
Guaranteed. And for me, I'm not even really concerned about him making it week 1. Week 1, I would like him to suit up and just be around, be, dressed and everything. Week 2, I want him for Michigan.
Yep.
That would be the game that I'm saying. And that leads into September. So that would be even bigger for him to come back in the second weekend of September and be back in full health or full health. We want him full health. He's 100% and he's cleared to go week 1. Play him week 2. Of course, you would like to get some of the chemistry with him and Mateer back by having him play around in the Illinois State game. But why even? Yeah, for what? No reason to. Have him prepare and play for the Michigan game, and then just unleash him there for the rest of the season.
Who do you think has the best opportunity to stand out and earn some significant reps, both in fall camp and early in the season, if Javonnie Gibson's not ready week 1?
If you want me to be honest, the best chance for taking over where Javonnie was might be Elijah Thomas, because I believe that Zion Kearney's probably going to win that other receiver spot. You'll have him with Keontes Lewis probably running over there. Keontes could probably too, if he's healthy, he could end up also taking that spot on the left, on the opposite side of Kearney, where Javonnie was. You could have Keontes Lewis out there as long as he's healthy. So I think it's between him and and Elijah Thomas. I think Elijah Thomas really stood out in practices based upon a lot of the reports. And if that's the case, you need to find a way to get him on the field as often as possible so that he can show out.
The other part of this is the transfer portal is going to be opening up on the 16th, 15th, 16th. And Oklahoma is going to be aggressive. Jim Nagy mentioned it last week. They're planning to try to upgrade their starting units. Wide receiver, I think, is one of those positions that everybody feels like they're going to attack. But with this Javonnie Gibson news, do you still feel like going after a starting wide receiver in the transfer portal is a necessity?
I do believe so. You need one more. You need one more with experience. And that's nothing against the young guys that we have. You want to build them up and get them ready. But you need one guy that's had the experience at the collegiate level, potentially he's put up some numbers, that's ready to go out there and play day one. Javonnie's is a great example of it. He came in and became wide receiver one because why? He's that dude. Mm-hmm. You get yourself a second one like that, then you can take your time with getting your other guys ready and get them prepared to play 2 years, if not 3, and boom, you can ship them off to the pros and begin that cycle again. So you want to get yourself probably one more veteran, because honestly, there was no words on Jaden Gibson at all. We didn't hear anything about Jaden. We heard about Javonnie. We haven't heard much about Jaden, even though Jaden's timetable is still August. Haven't been much word said on him. So we're just waiting on the next, diagnosis on him or update on him. It sounds like, I guess he's still on par, but haven't heard anything about it. And so that's probably where my concern or questions come into play is, where are we at when it comes to Jaden, as well as when it comes to, now that we know more about Javonnie. But we're probably going to need at least one more. How many do you think we should get?
Well, here's the thing. I feel more comfortable at wide receiver now that I've seen Deion Burks back.
Yeah.
If I have Deion Burks and I have Keontes Lewis emerging and Zion Kearney is, becoming the player that everybody thinks he can become, I got Isaiah Satania, Elijah Thomas is standing out, Manny Choice is standing out, Ivan Kearney is a 4-star prospect. You've got options. Again, I feel a lot better about it with Deion Burks and Isaiah Satania making the plays that they're making and the emergence of Zion Kearney. If you didn't have your young guys stepping up and showing out, I'd feel maybe like it was a bigger need to go after a legit, frontline wide receiver to add to your starting lineup. I think now where things stand, you might be able to go into fall camp and just let the competition continue to take place and see who emerges. Because again, you've got Burks and Satania and Keontes Lewis that have that experience. Mm-hmm. And if Javonnie Gibson is back, then you're good. If Jaden's back, you're even better. But then you've got a really solid group of young guys that can battle it out for either that third or fourth wide receiver spot and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I could see it both ways. If they went and added a starting level wide receiver in the transfer portal, I'm not going to be mad about it. If they decided, hey, you know what? We've seen enough out of our young guys this spring to let them to continue to compete for snaps with our starting lineup, I wouldn't be mad at that either. I think you could play it both ways. They like the guys that they've recruited. We've talked about it a number of times on this show. At some point, you've got to trust your evaluations and your development. And if all that is right, then these guys should start stepping into roles, especially the Zion Kearneys, Ivan Kearney's. Those guys should start emerging and becoming significant players in the offense.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You've got so many potential options. Luckily, you don't have a situation where you do feel like the cupboard is bare. It's not, and most of them are all back healthy, and that to me helps. And
you're not relying on a group of true freshmen anymore.
Yes, they got
Zion
experience.
Kearney, Ivan Kearney, Zion Reagans, they're a year older. KJ Daniel, that stuff matters. Just 1 year can make such a big difference in just your understanding of what you're supposed to do as a collegiate football player. Yeah, 1 year as just a college student made such a big difference. Like a year of experience, all that stuff matters. So again, they might go out a wide receiver. I don't think it says anything negatively against the young guys that they've got. it could just be, hey, we want to make sure we have a veteran presence for insurance purposes, and we want to have a legit difference maker. And if there's one out there that is going to be a legit difference maker, by all means, go get them. The Oklahoma Sooners lost a player to the transfer portal. We'll discuss him coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.